All right, everyone. So welcome to the ICC Rubik's Cube Introduction to the Rubik's Cube workshop. So today we are going to be learning how to do the basic beginner's method for the Rubik's Cube. So I assume that all of you guys have your Rubik's Cube. So hello, just a little bit about myself. My name is Forrest Zeng. I average around 17 seconds, and I've been doing the Rubik's Cube for around 5 years. I've been to 2 official competitions, and I have over 25 plus different types of Rubik's Cubes. So I have like the 2x2, the 3x3. Of course, I multiple 3x3s. Of course, all these different types of cubes. So let's just get started with a little bit fun. All right, so right now, I'm seeing a lot of people say 3.47 seconds, and that is actually correct. 3.47 seconds is the current world record for the 3x3 Rubik's Cube. So let's get started. So to actually solve the Rubik's Cube, there's going to be a couple of methods that are used to solve the Rubik's Cube, but for today, we're going to be learning the beginner's method. So the beginner's method is the most basic method, which we will be learning. It's composed of a couple of steps which have algorithms inside of them, and some of these other methods are used for speed cubing, so solving the cube quickly. So CFOP is the most common one. ZZ is like a really complicated math one. These other two are also methods, but just for today, since it's an introduction to the Rubik's Cube, we're just going to be learning the beginner's method. And so there are 3 different types of pieces in the Rubik's Cube. There are the corners, the edges, and the centers. So first, there are the corners, which are these things on the corner of the cube. They are the intersection between 3 slices. So they have 3 faces. So 1, 2, 3. Next, there are also edges. So edges have 2 faces like this, and they're the intersection between 2 slices. So 2 faces. And then finally, we also have centers. So the ones that only have 1 face that are in the center of all of the pieces. And a very important thing to note is that relative to each other, these centers are not going to change position. So you could scramble it in whatever way, something like this. And no matter what, the red is always going to be left of green, or white is always going to be opposite of yellow. No matter what, these centers are always going to be the same relative to each other. Now, when we get started, we're going to learn how to actually move the cube. So the notation for the Rubik's Cube is sort of like a bunch of letters that tell you what moves to do, right? So a move might be something like this or like this, very basic components. And we use a notation, which is essentially an alphabet for how we're actually going to solve the Rubik's Cube. So one notation is made of 2 parts. First, the slice, so which side or what layer we're going to be turning. And then we have a modifier, which tells you how many times to turn, what direction to turn, etc. So like if I'm saying the right slice counterclockwise, this is the right slice, and the modifier would tell me to turn left or to turn right. So before we actually get started solving the cube, we need to make sure that you have a cube that we can use today. So a lot of the times you might get a small cube, perhaps like as a prize. However, a lot of cubes that you find online aren't actually the right color scheme. So just for the purpose of today, of the beginner's method, the colors, the only colors that matter are the white and the yellow. The white and the yellow faces should be opposite of each other. So for instance, if you already have your cube scrambled, as I said before, all you need to know is if the center colors are correct. So if the center is yellow and this center is white and they're opposite of each other, then your cube, we can actually solve the cube. So if you were to go into competitions, of course, you would need a regulation cube with red left of green or orange left of blue and like this. However, just for the beginner's method, just for actually solving the cube for fun, all you need to have is the yellow be opposite of the white. So now we're going to get started learning the actual notation for the Rubik's Cube. So there are 6 basic slices. So we have the right slice, the left slice, the front slice, the back, the top, and the bottom. And for these are the 6 basic slices because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 sides, and so therefore you will have 6 slices that you are able to move. Next, there are the modifiers. So these modifiers, they aren't formally called modifiers, but I like to call them modifiers because that is essentially what they do. So there are 4 basic modifiers. So the first one is called I, and we read this out loud prime. So if you say R and then I, it's actually read R prime, and this means to turn the slice counterclockwise. So a clock goes this way, so this would just be nothing. This would be clockwise, but if there's a prime, that means to turn it like this, counterclockwise. And then we also have 2, which is self-explanatory. It just means to turn the cube 2 times. And then we also have lowercase. So lowercase is not very important for the beginner's method. It's just a fun little thing that you might need in the future. So lowercase is called wide, which means to turn 2 layers. You don't really need to notice yet, so just keep it in the back of your mind if you're ever doing more advanced algorithms. And then of course, there is a nothing modifier. So if there is no modifier on the slice, that means to just turn it clockwise. Some examples of moves are, for instance, R. R with no modifier means the right side, turn it clockwise, so like this. And there is a chart of all the moves on the guide. So the chart shows you which direction R is and R prime is. So R will be the right slice. And since there's no modifier, it just means to turn the right side clockwise. The next one is L prime. So the L, the left side, but you're turning it counterclockwise because it has an I, which means you're going to turn it something like this. Finally, we also have U, but it's a lowercase u, which means U wide, which means to turn the top 2 layers, because U means top. It means to turn the top 2 layers, clockwise. So this would be U. But since it's U wide and it's lowercase, it would be something like this. And then we also have, we can also combine modifiers. So for instance, R lowercase I, so lowercase r and then I. Lowercase r is R wide, and because there's an I, it means R wide prime, which means turn it like this. Of course, this is a little bit advanced, and we won't be using this in the beginner's method. So now we're going to go in depth into what the basic moves look like. So first we have R. So R is short for right side. So if you're looking at the cube like this, and very important to note, the colors that you're looking at don't matter. So for instance, you could turn your cube around like this, and from your perspective, the right side is this slice over here. Or if you're looking at the cube like this, the right side is this slice over here. So R is from your perspective, from whatever way you're looking at, the R is the right slice, the right side, which you need to be turning. So R without a modifier would be to turn R away from you, so clockwise, and R prime is to turn it counterclockwise like this. In addition, we have L, which is short for left, so that would be the left slice, so the complete opposite of the R, which is over here, left slice. And so L clockwise would be like this, so coming towards you because it's turning in the way of the clock. And L prime with an I after means that you're going to be turning it counterclockwise like this, away from you. So there is some practice, for instance, R, so R would be turning clockwise. And then L, so L is this left slice, but with no modifier, so it's turning clockwise as well. And then there's also L prime. L prime is turning the opposite direction away from you. And R prime, which is counterclockwise like this. And R is the right slice turning clockwise. Next, we have U. So U is self-explanatory. It's the top layer. So U is short for up. And so U is this slice over here. And so to turn the U slice clockwise would be to turn it like this. So if you were to turn it like this, that would be clockwise. And then U prime is the other way, so like this. And so some of the practice, you see we have a massive combination of R, L, and U. There's also U2. As you can recall, the 2 modifier makes you turn the slice 2 times. So if you do U2, it would be like this. And a very important thing to note is that it doesn't matter which direction you're turning the U. So if you go like, if you turn U prime 2 times, it's the same as doing U 2 times because the cube is symmetrical and can be turned 4 times. So that divided by 2 would be symmetrical. Next, we have F, which is short for front. So front would be this slice over here, the one that you're looking at that is facing you directly. This one is the easiest because just from this perspective, you can see that this is the front slice. And if you're turning it clockwise, you're turning it to the right, like this. If you're turning it counterclockwise, F prime, it would be turning like this. Next, we have D. So D is short for bottom. And so D, if you look at it sort of like this, sort of looking at it like this, if you were to turn the bottom layer clockwise, it would look like this. So it's turning to the right. And then D prime, which is counterclockwise, is turning this way, like this. And of course, all of this is on the guide if you want to check. And it's very important to have the chart right next to you so that you don't make a mistake while you're actually solving it. Finally, we have B, and B is shorthand for back. So B would be the back over here, like this. So it would be this slice in the back. And so B clockwise would be going this way, so like this. So if you to sort of look at it like this, with this being the front, sort of twist your hand around, this would be clockwise, and this would be counterclockwise. Now, to solve the cube, we need algorithms. And essentially what an algorithm is it's a bunch of steps to solve something. So in math or science, you might use an algorithm to solve a problem. And for Rubik's Cube, an algorithm is essentially just combining a bunch of moves together to do one thing. So the most famous algorithm in the Rubik's Cube is called the Sune, which is a combination of R, U, and R, U, R prime, U, R, U2, R prime. So something that looks like this. And this will come up later when we do the last layer. So for now, just know that algorithms are just a bunch of steps, a bunch of moves stitched together to do something. Now that we know how to move the cube, there are 7 steps to the beginner's method. So there's cross, and then corners, edges, top cross, top corners, permute top corners, and permute top edges. So these 7 steps are very basic. They're definitely not meant for speed. And so since we are just beginning, it's a little bit more easier to learn the easier method. So let's start with step 1. So first, you're going to want to actually scramble your cube. You might have just bought your cube, wanted to keep it in pristine condition, but we want to we want to actually learn how to solve the cube. So just for today, we are going to scramble up the cube. So I'm going to do something very random like this. And now most of the pieces are in a random position. So step 1 is the cross. And the goal is for your cross to look something like this. So all of your white pieces are matching all of your white edges. This white is matching with this white, and this red is matching with this red center. And from the start, I said that the white, all of these centers are going to be the same relative to each other. So the red is always going to be to the right of blue, and white is always going to be in between them over here. And so our goal is to get these edges into their correct place. So this red edge is now between the white and the red centers over here. And this orange one is between the orange center and the white center, like this, or the green one, and also the blue one. So our goal is to get that cross shape like this. So the cross has 3 basic steps. The first one is to find a white edge. The second one is to get it to the top layer, and the third one is to get it to the right position. And very important through this entire process is that it's very, very important to hold the yellow center on top. Whatever algorithm you're doing, like this, or you're doing something like this, it's very important to hold it so that the yellow is on top. You can rotate your cube around like vertically like this, but in the end, when you're actually doing algorithms, you're going to keep the yellow on top. You might be like moving it around to look for edges. So like you're going to look, oh, I'm going to look for this edge. But in the end, when you actually do the algorithm, so like this, when you actually do the algorithm, the yellow center must always be on top. The first step for the cross is to find a white edge. So with your scrambled cube, look around for a white edge that has another color on it. So an edge has 2 faces, and you want to find one that has 1 white face. So for instance, this one, this has white and blue, and this is an edge. And remember, it's very important to keep, to remember the other color on the edge. We're going to use it later when we actually put it into the correct position. So for this example, I'm going to use this white blue edge. So your edge can be in 3 places. It can either be on the top layer, so this one over here, and always remembering to keep the yellow center facing upwards. It can either already be on top, or it can be in the middle, so sandwiched between the top and the bottom layers, or it can be on the bottom layer over here. So right now, this blue edge is in the middle layer. Now this part is a little bit confusing because when I say turn the cube, I don't mean to turn the cube like this. I mean to just move the whole cube around with your hand. So something like this, move the cube from your perspective. Don't move it, turn it like this or some wild thing like that. You're just going to rotate the cube in your hand, move it around in your hand, and you need to rotate it, always keeping the yellow center pointing upwards. Rotate it until this white edge is on the right. So, or if it looks something like this, this edge is on the right of you. Okay, it doesn't matter if the white is pointing towards you or if it's pointing away from you, just as long as that edge is on the right, and also keeping the yellow center upwards. So once it's in the right, you perform this algorithm. So it proceeds like F, R prime, F prime, R. And remember, this is all going to be on the guide for you to refer back to. So now you see that this white edge, instead of being in the middle, it is now in the top layer. Another example is if the white piece is in the bottom layer. So if it looks like this edge over here, instead of being on the top layer like this one, or in the middle layer like this one, instead it's in the bottom layer like this. You're going to rotate the cube vertically like this until the edge is in the front slice. So it's like sort of facing you. And of course, as I said before, it doesn't matter if it's flipped or not, if it's pointing towards you or if it's pointing downwards, just as long as this piece, this very important, this piece is in the front. And so this brings up the point where do not think of the cube as faces, so like stickers, but think of it as cubes. So small little 3-dimensional cubes instead of like white little plates. So it's very important to think about this edge being in the front, but not the white face being in the front. So once you have that piece that is in the bottom layer in the front, so like over here, in the front slice, now you're going to perform this algorithm R, L, F, R, L prime. And that will bring that edge to the top layer over here. Your goal now is to move the edges to the right place. So there are 2 cases if the edge for the edge to go to the right place. So case one is if the edge that you were looking at is on the top layer and it's facing outwards. So by facing outwards, I mean that the white is facing sort of like this way. So it's sort of like facing outwards, horizontally parallel to your desk. So if it is doing that, then you're going to sort of turn your cube so that it's pointing towards you. It's looking at, you can look directly into the white, and then you perform the algorithm. So U prime, R prime, F prime, R. And now the white will be facing upwards, pointing towards the sky. And this is case two. So case two, you're going to, for case two, now that the white is pointing to the sky, you constantly do U, you keep on turning the top layer until this color matches with the correct center. So another example, say this green one over here, this is case two, it's pointing towards the sky. You keep on doing U until that green is matching with its green center. Once that happens, you just turn this side 2 times. And now you will notice that it is between the white and the green centers. Another example, let's do this one. This is case 2. Since the white is pointing upwards, we're going to keep on doing U, U, U until that white and blue edge, it's matching up with that center. And you proceed to do F2. So let me just show you guys a mostly full cross. So let's start from find the white edge. So let's say we want this one. This is already in the top layer. So we can actually just skip the second step and go directly to the third step because it's already in the top layer. And so this is case 1 because it's facing outwards. So you bring it so that it's looking at you to perform the algorithm. And then we go to case 2, which is it's pointing upwards. And we try to match this. We keep on doing U until this color is matching with this center. And then we just turn that 2 times. So after all of that, you should have your entire cross solved. The next step is to solve the white corners. And so someone asked, what is F2? So if you recall from the modifiers, 2 means to turn something 2 times. So like, so I think F2 will be used here. F2 is to turn the front slice 2 times. So something like this, 1, 2. Next step is to put the white corners into the correct place. So corner, it has 3 faces, and you're looking for a corner that has 1 white face on it. So like this one, this has a white face on it. So you're going to try and remember what the other colors are, where this is the whole time. Next, your goal is to get the corner to the top layer. So in this case, the corner is already in the top layer. So I'm going to go with another example. So this one, this is a white face. And our goal is to get this over here into the top layer. So our goal is to get this to the top layer. If it's on the bottom layer, we're going to turn the cube. So like we're going to look at the cube sort of from this perspective, and always remembering to keep the yellow center pointing upwards. We're going to sort of look at the cube so that this white corner is on the bottom left. So like if it were like this is the white corner. Our goal is to look at the cube with the yellow center on top. So rotating it vertically so that this corner is over here. So like it's on the bottom left. And as I mentioned before, it's important to look at that corner. Look at that corner with as a piece. So instead of looking at it like a face, saying, "Oh, why can't this is impossible to do because something like this." Let's see. You say, "Oh, this is impossible. The white isn't facing me." The goal here is to get this piece in the bottom right, not the white in the bottom right. You're trying to get the piece over here. Once it's there, you perform the algorithm F, R prime, F prime, R. And now you'll notice that the corner has now magically moved from here. It's now up to the top. Let's see. Next, our goal is to move the corner to the right place. So a big warning, make sure the yellow is on top. So remember these two other colors, this is red and blue. You're going to turn the top layer U like this. And then once you keep on turning, you're going to figure out that this corner has to go into here. So just to reiterate that, you notice this is red, blue, and white. What does that mean? That means that it has to go in this spot over here. So it needs to go between the red, blue, and white center. So it has to go in like this. This is the correct position. So to actually put it into the correct position, essentially what we do is we keep on doing U until it is sort of hovering above the spot where it needs to go. And once it is hovering above the spot, we just perform this algorithm, R prime, U prime. And in some cases, so like this case over here, this is blue above this position. All you have to do is keep on doing that algorithm until it goes in. So another example, this one is already in the top layer, so we don't need to bring it out. And it's hovering above the correct position. So orange, orange, blue, blue, white, white. You just perform R prime, U prime. Keep on doing that until it goes down into the bottom layer. Another one, this one is the red, green one. So this one, it's already in the top layer, so we don't need to take it out off the bottom layer. Once that is there, we look for the spot where it's supposed to be. So this is red and red, green and green. You perform the algorithm constantly. And then this one is in the bottom layer. So we return back to see if the white corner is in the bottom layer. You sort of look at the cube so that this corner is on the bottom right, like this. So this piece is in the front slice over here. And then we perform the algorithm F prime, R, and now it is in the top layer. And then move the corner to the right place. So this is hovering above that spot. So it's green, green, orange, orange, white, white, and then you constantly perform. And then soon you'll realize that your entire bottom layer is now solved. So now here, you take a look, all of the pieces on the bottom, they are matching with the correct centers. This is matching with the white, and they are all in the correct position. So somebody asked me to review what we were just doing. So I'll recap a little bit. So let me scramble the cube again. So first, we started with the cross. So the cross is going to end up looking a little bit like, see if I can solve the cross really quick. It's going to look something like this. So you're going to have a white cross with the centers matching with the white edges. And so a lot of the instruction is going to be on the guide. So definitely make a copy of that so you can refer back to later. So essentially what you do is you look for a piece, you bring it to the top layer, and then you do one of two cases. If it's facing outwards, you do something like this. Right. I'm not quite sure what the algorithm is, but something like this. And then it's going to be facing upwards. And then what you do is you move it so that its color is matching with the center. You move that side 2 times. And then what you do is you move on to the next piece. So you look for this one. So you look for another edge like this one. This is in the bottom. Like this. Once you've gotten that, this is case 2. So it's now just pointing upwards. So you keep on moving U until its color is matching with its center. You do F2, which will move it downwards. And so very important, a very common misconception is that you're going to do it all at the same time, right? So for instance, you're going to do this 3-step process for each one of the edges. So you're going to, let me scramble it again. So you're going to do that process. You're going to search for an edge. You're going to do the process or the algorithm like this. Then you're going to say, oh, this is case 1. So I do this algorithm. And then, you continue to case 2. And then you look for another edge. So this one, this time, this is already in the top. This is case 1. So like this. And then, you do it for each one of the edges. All right. And we also have the corners. So the corners it's a lot more easier. So if it's on the bottom layer, you perform the algorithm. And then what you do is you keep on doing U, very similar to the cross. And then you bring it to the position where it's supposed to be. So the orange, orange, green, green, white, white. And then you just keep on repeating this algorithm. And I'm doing a little bit fast right now to save some time. But in reality, it's a good idea to go slow because at the start, you want to make sure that every single move that you're doing is correct. Because if you get at least one wrong, it's very, very likely that you are going to mess up the entire cube and have to start all over. All right, next, we are going to try the middle layer. So let me just quickly solve the corners really quickly. So like this, repeating that algorithm over and over. So now your bottom layer is done. So remember, a very common misconception is that you're going to be solving the cube side by side. And that's actually incorrect because if you solve it side by side, it's going to be extremely difficult due to some mathematical problems because some of these edges will intersect with others. So instead, the best way to do it, instead of solving 6 sides at once, as some of those sides are intersecting, it's actually best to solve it layer by layer. So this layer of pieces, and then this layer of pieces, and this layer of pieces. So instead, you just have to solve 3 layers, and those layers don't have anything to do with each other, and it's a lot more easier. So now we're going to go into the middle layer. So the middle layer is going to look something like this on the slides. And so the middle layer, first you're going to look for an edge. So your goal, let's say we find this edge, or actually let's say we have let's say this edge over here. And we want to look for an edge that does not have yellow on it. So this edge would not count. It has yellow on it. This edge would count because it does not have yellow on it. However, this one or this one, they both have yellow on it. So you're looking for one that does not have yellow. Next, we are going to try and insert the piece. Now, there is a special case for this. If the edge is in the middle layer, so sandwiched between the top and the bottom, that is a special case, which I'll discuss later. But for now, we're going to look at the ones that are in the top layer. So like this one, this edge does not have a yellow on it. So your goal is to keep on doing U.
Forrest, you got muted.
Sorry, I was muted the whole time.
No, you just started. I accidentally clicked. I was trying to do this something on the Zoom and I accidentally clicked mute you. So
oh, you accidentally muted me. Okay, that's fine. So anyways, we have the edges. You're going to look for the edges that are in the top over here. This edge over here. This edge does not have yellow on it, which is what we're looking for. And our goal is to keep on doing U until the color that is facing outwards, so this color over here, it is the same as the center. So like another example, let's see, like this one, this is blue and orange. It does not have yellow on it. And we're going to keep on doing U until that blue matches up with the blue center. And so now looking at this, you can sort of tell that you need to move this to the left, right? Our goal is to get this orange with this orange and this blue with this blue, sort of match it like that, right? And so to do that, there are 2 cases. So there's case one like this one, the blue and the red, it needs to go to the right. So for case 1, you do perform this algorithm. So that algorithm is on the guide. I might have done it a little bit too quickly. So U, R, U prime, R prime, F, R prime, F prime, R. And of course, keep the chart of moves by your side when you're actually performing the algorithm. Case 2 is if it's going to the left. So going to the left like this, you can sort of tell because the orange needs to match with the orange to perform case 2 algorithm. There is a special case for this. So the special case is if the piece is in the middle layer. So let me give you guys an example like this. So if the piece is in the middle layer, instead of being in the top layer, in the yellow center layer over here, It's definitely not in the bottom layer because we already solved that. If it's in the middle layer, it's actually quite easy. We just have to push it out of that spot. And so to do that, you take a yellow edge, any random edge you want, and then you insert that piece into here. And because you can't have two pieces in one spot, it's going to push this out somewhere to the back. So for instance, I want to push this into here. I want to move it to the right. So like swapping these two sort of, you perform the case one algorithm. You'll notice that edge that you pushed into that spot, it will also push out the edge that was already in the middle. And once you have that, you just repeat from the last slide. So you just keep on doing U until it matches up with that center. So this red and red, and then you perform the algorithm. So quick review. Your goal is you want it to look like this. So here you're going to keep on doing U until this matches up with the center, and then you perform the algorithm. So you can tell that this is going to the right because this is orange and orange, green and green. So it sort of like goes to the right like this. You perform that algorithm. And of course, all of the algorithms are going to be on the guide. And the guide also has the chart for all of the moves. So it's very important to keep that by your side when you're actually solving it. So for instance, if you make one move incorrect, so like, let's say, I am going to do I'm going to do case one. I want to move this to the right. I do U, R, U prime, and then instead of R prime, I accidentally do R. And then I continue with the rest of the algorithm, and it completely messes up my cube. Now this edge is out of here. This is messed up. This isn't right. The bottom layer is gone. So your goal is right now is to try and get all of those, try to get the moves correct and to do it slowly. Finally, our last step is to do the last layer cross. Now this part is a little bit more algorithmic and it's a little bit more easier to do. So essentially what you're going to do is you're going to follow these steps constantly over and over. So first you're going to ask, and during this, you want to kind of ignore the corners. You know, imagine the corners are completely grayed out. Pretend that they are out of your vision. Pretend that you took out the corners and you're only looking at the edges. And you're going to ask, is it a dot? If it's a dot, then you will just continue and you're going to perform this algorithm at the bottom. Second, and you're going to perform the algorithm, so like this. Of course, ignoring the corners, we ask, is it an L? If it's an L, you're going to hold that L so that it's sort of pointing to the right of you. So if you look at it sort of like this, this is sort of in the shape of an L. So you're going to hold it so that it's pointing to the right, like that, and you perform the algorithm. And the third one is it a line? So like this I, and your goal is to hold it so that, sort of rotate it with your hand, hold it so that it's perpendicular to you. So you're looking at it, it's sort of flat like this. Of course, you perform the same algorithm. So essentially the procedure that you're following is to hold the cube in the correct position. So now after repeating that until your cross is done, you will have a beautiful yellow cross over here. The last step, or not the last step, the last step for orienting the yellow pieces is your last layer corners. So the corners is it's very similar to the cross, except it's a lot more simpler. So your goal is to rotate. Your goal is to ask first, is it a fish? And that is a peculiar question, but it's going to make sense when you see what a fish actually is. So when you look at this from the side, it sort of looks like a fish, right? Because it has a head here and a tail. So if it is a fish, you're going to hold it in this position. So the fish is swimming to the left of you. And then you're going to continue and you're going to perform the algorithm that you see on the bottom. However, if it's not a fish, so this is not a fish like this, it has these two corners. It doesn't look like the fish that you see on the chart. If it's not a fish, you're going to try and hold it so that this piece over here, from your perspective, this piece here is not oriented. So this piece this piece over here, it is not looking upwards. If you were to hold it like this piece, it is looking upwards. This yellow is looking upwards like this. Your goal is to hold it like this. And now remember, this is only if it is not a fish. So if it's not like this, this is a fish. If it is a fish, you're going to hold it pointing to the left and perform the algorithm. And you just keep on repeating that. Oh, this is another fish, so it's pointing to the left. Eventually, all of your yellow will be facing upwards. Our final step is to permute the last layer. So to permute the last layer, there are two steps. The first one is to permute the corners. So to permute the corners, our goal is to get all of these corners, put all of these corners into the right slots. So at the end, it's going to look something like this. So you notice all of the edges are in the wrong place, but all of these corners, they are in the correct place like this. They're in the correct place. So to permute the corners, you're going to find two corners that are facing in one direction. So you rotate the cube, look around it, and you find these two that are facing. They are sort of like eyes looking in one direction. Of course, very important note. There is a rare possibility that all of your corners are already in the correct place. If so, just skip to the next step. But for now, we're going to assume that you're not a very lucky person and you have to orient your corners. So when you actually look at these corners, you look for two that are facing in one direction. If they're facing in the one direction, you hold your cubes so that they are these two are on your left. And once they're on your left, you perform this very long algorithm: RU, R prime, U prime, RF, R2, U prime, R prime, U prime, RU, R prime, F prime. That's a very long algorithm, but after some time, you are going to be able to do it. So this algorithm, notice that there are parentheses on the algorithm. These parentheses do not mean that you will, these parentheses do not indicate that they are optional. The only reason they are there is to make them a little bit more easier to memorize. So like it's pretty hard to memorize this entire algorithm, right? Just by reading it out. So the parentheses are there to just make a grouping. So it's like you can memorize it part by part or something like that. Now there is a special case. So the special case is like this. Just quickly set up the special case. The special case is you look at all of them. These two are not matching. 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 None of them are matching. If that is true, then all you have to do is, from whatever position, all you have to do is do the algorithm once, and by magic, you'll notice that now two of them are matching. And of course, you will continue. So you hold the cubes so that they are on the left, pointing to the left of you, when you perform the algorithm. Finally, we are going to permute the edges. So now we look at the yellow layer, and this is very similar to the permute the corners, except you're looking for three that are connected. So like these three are connected. Another example, let's say like this. Oh, this is not the right one. Like this. Let's see if I can give you guys a good example. Like this. No, that's definitely not what I wanted. These three are connected. So you see this orange, orange, orange. This is connected. And what you do is you hold it so that side is in the back, After that, all you have to do is you repeat this algorithm: RU, 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 RU prime, RU, R prime, U prime, R2. It's a mouthful, but eventually, after you repeat it multiple times, your cube will maybe just be one move away from being solved. And there is a special case, so something like this. You look at the three pairs, none of them are connected. Now, very similar to the corners, all you do is you perform the algorithm once. And then you'll notice that by magic, three of them are now connected. And then you bring them to the back, as the guide says. So now they're in the back. You constantly repeat this algorithm. Constantly repeat it. And then in the end, all of your pieces should now be in the correct place. So congratulations, that is essentially how you solve the Rubik's Cube. Now I know you probably weren't able to actually solve the Rubik's Cube the first time, but this is a very good experience for actually seeing like what sort of size, what sort of effort goes into solving the Rubik's Cube. You completed one side, so as I stated before, when you're actually solving the Rubik's Cube, the goal is not to solve one face. So if you solve it like this, you solve it like this, this is the orange face is done, right? And then you say, oh, now all I have to do is solve this face, right? How are you going to do that? So I'm going to bring this green down. Oh no, the orange is here. So how do I'm just going to mess around and sort of move these green edges around. And you'll actually end up realizing that it doesn't really work out. So actually what you want to do is you're going to solve it layer by layer. So first you're going to form the cross, and then you solve the corner. I'm doing it really quickly right now, just to show you guys. So and then you solve the corners. Once you solve all the corners, you'll have one layer done. So that's very important. You're solving layer by layer instead of side by side. So at the end, I'm going to show you guys a full solve. So this full solve is not using the beginner's method. Instead, it is using a method called CFOP. So I can do it really quickly. So okay, so this is a professional scramble. So normally when you're in a competition, you look over the scramble a little bit, and then you get started. You put your hands on the timer, and let's see. Okay. So here I'm solving the cross. So I have the cross done now. Using CFOP, I actually do the middle layer and the bottom layer at the same time. So that's a very much faster. Next, I'm able to complete the cross and the corners at the same time like this. And finally, I can just complete the entire last layer with just one more algorithm. All right, that is basically it for the introduction to Rubik's Cube class. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to talk about like perhaps advancing, any help on the beginner's method, different parts, of course, there's the guide, and that is basically it for the introduction to Rubik's Cube class. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I guess I'll see you guys next time then.